keep it, and then I can upload to a OneDrive and send to you wherever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do I see the problems? What I think has happened is that I honestly, I think the biggest problem is that I have not, I don't know how to lay out a mystery in a compelling way, to put hints throughout that are like physical objects, but not too explainy, and that don't like bore the audience, and that at the end will feel satisfying and surprising at the same time. I think that that is really a big issue. And I also think that in terms of my outline, in terms of my outline, I think that the climax will and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and say late stage act 2 needs needs a good deal of switching around. And then in terms of generally like page by page, I think I really need to, I was kind of going to do this on like a second draft or something, is go through and work on distinguishing the character voices and like just simply how they speak, and then making sure that if there's any character that doesn't really clearly fall somewhere on my, like on one of the viewpoints, that I clarify that. Like I think Chuck is a little confusing right now, for instance.
Yes, I totally agree. But there are two characters that I kind of I'm seeing some problems with. One of them is Chuck, because I think there's always like the obligatory friend character, just like everybody like does that. It's like, oh well, our main dude just needs a buddy, and then that character doesn't necessarily bring a lot to the table. Not that Chuck, it doesn't have a voice. Chuck is like, very pro adventure, very going along with Sam's thing. But I think Sam is already so overtly adventurous that Chuck's voice doesn't really matter, because they're so on the same page. At least that's what I was gathering.
Yeah, so you're thinking like it could, if Chuck was more like a homebody too, or you think kind of like Chuck could just be cut?
I think either Chuck has to be a homebody or Chuck has to be cut. That's Chuck is, a co-pilot. He's used to this kind of lifestyle, so that's, I don't know, that might need some retroactive rethinking. And he doesn't hurt the story as it is. I think the other character that I was going to bring up, I believe, does hurt the story,
Okay.
and that's Isabel. Isabel, simply by being a PI, like a side character who's a private investigator, to me that just saps up all of the agency from Sam.
Okay.
It's like why they're like globetrotting, and like Sam is supposed to be putting together this mystery, and instead we just have this PI who just, oh, I got some clues, but now we got to go back to New York. Like, whoa, wait a second. That the Jamaica thing was the most jarring out of all of what I read, because when they go down there, they all just party, and then Isabel just sort of finds some clues off screen, and she's just like, hey, I got some letters. Like, oh wow, that was the one thing that really stuck out to me. Like, there's got to be some sort of really intriguing twist in Jamaica, and I don't know what it is.
I have an idea about that. One idea is that we could like if we have it so that the treasure in my mind could change completely over this call if we come up with something better. But
Yeah.
There's that scene where like Madge, and I think I'm calling him Henry right now.
Yes.
Madge and Henry like find that kind of like early treasure, like it's not the treasure they wanted, but it's a kind of like that
flashback scene.
Yeah, it's enough to keep them going, and then she's conflicted because she's like, shit, I don't know if I wanted to keep going. There's a way to do it, I think, where maybe if Henry is Sue's dad, and Henry has these
Yeah.
Jamaican resorts, and now Sue is the owner of the company, and she is now the owner of these resorts, but that's hidden from Sam. Then these statues can be all around the resort. Like all
Hmm.
this Taino artwork can be like throughout the resort. And then Sam can kind of like it can be set up that they're commenting on it or they're looking at it, but then they think the clues that they need are elsewhere, but they're actually like on display at the resort.
Yeah, I think I totally think that's possible because that falls in line with the theme of like, oh, the treasure, as corny as it sounds, it's like the real treasure was in plain sight. It was you know, it was at home. But I think that also what this is missing is a real sense of like a dark agenda on the other side. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that the key to that is Henry. The Henry character to me is like, oh, he's like a mysterious figure from Madge's past. He's like, when I see him, I want him to be like shrouded in smoke and darkness, and like he's this
Mm-hmm.
like charismatic adventurer figure. You're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I think you could so lean into that. And so either Henry has some plan that is like, I don't know what it is, but I mean, that has to be part of the mystery too. So when they're discovering things, they're discovering that maybe Henry. I mean, we know that Henry kidnapped or imprisoned Madge, or I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Um, but like, man, Henry just seems like the key to all this. And when you have this climax, can you explain the climax to me with Sue? Because it's sort of making sense to me.
Yeah, so we have uh we have Jimmy in his deathbed, and then Sam decides to like stay with Jimmy while he dies instead of going and trying to beat Sue to the treasure. And then I think yeah. Um we get like oh god, how did I have this happen? Rosie enters. Yeah, so Jimmy actually hangs on despite like Rosie says, like it's inexplicable. I can't explain it how he's managing to do this, but he's hanging on.
Staying alive, you mean?
Yeah, he's staying alive.
Yeah,
Like just because he's waiting for Madge. Like he's holding on to life for all that he's got. And so then oh yeah, I think I had the decisive act as Rosie says she'll stay, but I think the decisive act is actually going to be Jimmy says, or Rosie says, I can't believe Jimmy's still alive. Like it seems like he might have a little bit longer because despite all odds, he's staying
yeah.
alive. And then Sam flies to Jamaica, finds the
This is the
treasure.
second time he flies to Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Um Finds Madge when he wasn't sure if she was still alive, and then head-to-head match with Sue. And Sue is surprised that Madge is alive, and then Madge says, "I gave away all this treasure through the years," and then that I was gonna have it that then Stu basically tells Isabel like kill them, and then Isabel's like, "How are you gonna pay me for that?" And that she was banking everything on having this treasure or the company goes under. And then Sam
Yeah.
and Madge fly home, and she gets reunited with Jimmy.
All right. So one thing I think you could do with Sue would be to combine the Sue character and the Henry character in some capacity. Just because if you want a twist, like I do like the idea that, oh, her father was the one who committed these dark deeds, but like where does that place her in this?
Yeah,
I
so
mean, if she's trying to, I think just one second, this could be insane. If she's trying to cover her father's tracks, then one twist that I would propose would be that the private investigator is murdered. If you don't want this to all be letters and clues and, oh, what's going on here? This is a secret, whatever. Just straight up kill the private investigator in Jamaica. And then nobody knows who did it. But then we later realized that it was Sue covering her father's tracks. That was something I thought of as like, okay. And it's so unconventional. It comes out of nowhere because typically like the murder is the central thing of the mystery. But in this case, the murder is like just one part of the mystery. And I thought that would be a really cool twist to do. Especially if you bring in the romance between her and Chuck. It's like, it makes it really tragic. And it adds a little weight to it while also being like a really intriguing plot beat. Like, okay, so then the question becomes, what did the PI find out? And we later learned that it was just Sue covering up for her father's legacy, because if her father's reputation goes down, then she loses all of her business, right?
Wow, yeah. So this is, when you say combine Sue and Henry, I had kind of been thinking, I guess I don't think it's written down, but like because I never found a way to get it really to come to fruition, but like basically Henry is the founder of like Evil Corp in this world, like just whatever bad corporation. Yeah. And then the antagonist is really like this evil corporation, and Sue is now at the helm.
Yeah, I like the idea that Sue has a lot to lose here. I mean, those types of villains, that makes sense to people.
Yes.
So even if you didn't, in a way, you are merging Henry and Sue just by virtue of them representing the same force. If Henry built this company, right, and he built this company on blood, and he built this company on crimes, then Sue feels obligated to keep all that covered up and together. So Sue finds out that Sam is going after this mystery, which is why she approaches him. And it's like, oh, okay, so if I can just get a hold of this kid first and steer him off the tracks, then maybe I can. So Sue actively deceiving Sam would be a way to make some of the meandering in Jamaica and some of the treading water, make it actually make sense. Because instead of just, I wonder what, I guess we have to get more clues, it's actively like, no, they're being misled. Like Sam is being, so he like doesn't find anything in Jamaica, and the PI mysteriously dies. It's like, oh, well, this was really unproductive. And the reason it was unproductive was because of Sue acting as a double agent.
Okay.
Yeah, I would totally kill the PI. That's like the biggest thing I thought of here, just to amp it up, because that just, oh my God, that just takes us to the next level.
Yeah,
for me at least.
Because
if it's a real secret, I mean, it takes it beyond just like, it has this emotional component about Madge and her wants and desires, and it has all that, but introducing like real hardcore shit to the story, I don't know, I think that's the right choice. But yeah,
I do like that. So in that case, because right now she wants the treasure too, basically, and she wants it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's fulfilling this old like wish of her father's, but also like the company is not doing well, and she needs this money basically from the treasure in order to keep the company afloat, which is like what gives her all of her power. So in this version, it would be more like maybe they found this treasure completely in the past or something like that. And then Henry had to like get rid of Madge, so he sabotaged her plane, whatever. She had a plane crash. He presumed her dead. And now Sam finds out something that makes him think, or makes him know, that his mother is still alive. Like maybe Jimmy tells him because he got a letter.
It's got to go through Jimmy. It totally has to come through Jimmy, because that's so emotionally relevant to Jimmy. But yeah, I totally agree. I was also thinking.
Yeah.
Continue.
Well, so then it would just be that instead of him being like, I'm trying to find this treasure, he would explicitly be like, I'm trying to find this woman who was like a treasure hunter in Jamaica, like I'm trying to find Madge, and then she would try to disrupt that, because if he finds out like about what happened with Madge, it could ruin her company, it could ruin her dad. Is that the idea?
Yeah, no, I think you have a lot of different ways to play this. So the treasure could still be out there. And in that case, you'd have to find some way for Sue to not know where the treasure is. For instance, you could say, oh, I mean, do we know Henry's fate? Maybe Henry died at some point before he could tell Sue about where the treasure is. Or here's the way I would play it. The treasure has already been looted and plundered, like you said, and it's already part of the hotels. Like the treasure is a red herring. They don't know where the treasure is, but they later find out that it's just been incorporated into the hotels. And the real mystery is Madge. So I guess part of Sam as a character that was a tad confusing to me is specifically what is the object of this adventuring. Because if the adventuring is directly linked to Madge and the sentimental value he gets from that, then is he really just a thrill seeker? I mean, because the script tells me, oh, he's just an adventurer and a thrill seeker. But then he's also going after such a personal goal. So I mean, I think you have to clarify: is he going after the treasure, or is he going after Madge? Or if you wanted to conflate those things, make the audience aware of that paradox in Sam's thinking, and have somebody ask him, "What are you really doing this for? Are you actually looking for the treasure? Or is this actually about your mother?" And maybe he hasn't quite figured that out yet, but then he realizes, oh, it was about his mother. I mean, you know what I mean? You're dealing with two separate MacGuffins here, and they're both thematically conflicting.
Yeah. So
And you could use that, but yeah.
I like that a lot, because I think I've been trying to kind of conflate them, but that makes a lot of sense to just simply have another character question him on it and show that he's conflicted as a way to point out the paradox. Or pick one. Right?
Right. I would center more around Madge.
Okay.
That's what I would do, because if he knows Madge is out there and he's going after Madge, then introducing a treasure hunting agenda, like, I don't know, his heart is clearly set on finding his mother. Like when he leaves Jimmy, he's going to get Madge. That's, the point of why he goes out, right? Am I interpreting that correctly? That is his motivation.
His motivation is to find Madge. Yes. That's what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If his motivation is to find Madge, then to have him have a realization of, oh, I was supposed to find Madge, that's not really that's not a change in his thinking, So the question is, you could ask yourself, why does he want to find Madge? Is it for the right reasons? That's, I think, where his internal thing is. He's going after one goal the whole time, but it's about, am I going after this because I actually care about my mother, or is it just because I love the thrill of what I'm doing?
Got it. Yeah, that's great. The other thing was that I think is another way that this goal is confused, is that in my head it's partially because he feels like it seems to me to make more sense if it's less about finding his mother because, oh, I've always wanted to meet my mother, because, like, I mean, she's just someone like that he's never met, as opposed to dad's about to die and it's my dad's dying wish and I feel like I owe him.
Okay.
Because that's kind of in the first song when he sings, like, to see you again is all that keeps me hanging on.
Okay,
Sam,
no, you got a point there. Yeah. You could even crank that up one more notch, and you could say that Sam resents his mother. Because imagine that conflict of interest. That's like Jimmy is insisting that Sam goes and finds her, maybe. I don't know. I know that's not how it plays out in the script currently, but Sam could be like, I don't really want to do this. And then he gets lured in. It's like the classic, like, all right, I'll do it if you pay me. So then he learns about the treasure and he's like, okay, fine. But he doesn't go in looking for his mother. He goes in looking for the treasure. And then his goal flips by the end of it. I mean, imagine if he actually harbors like deep childhood resentment for his mother. Like that could be the piece you need, and it could make him a much darker character, really. I mean, imagine that internal struggle there of, you know, he slowly realizes over the course of this treasure hunting that he is invested in his mother and he wants to, he cares about this. And then when it's finally revealed that the treasure, has already been found and is already like, back into the economy and who cares? That's like a perfect little twist of like, oh no, it actually really was. Sorry, did you drop out of the meeting there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second.
Okay, got it. Yeah, sorry about that. Now you're on my phone and it's not through Wi-Fi, so there should not be any problem.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so you were at Sam maybe has this deep childhood resentment of
Yeah.
Madge. Okay.
So imagine a version of this where Jimmy introduces the concept of Madge being alive, and Sam immediately doesn't want to do it. But then maybe Chuck says, hey, but there's treasure involved. And Sam is like, okay, fine. And he goes along with it. Then over the course of the story, he becomes more invested in learning about Madge until the very end when it's revealed that the treasure doesn't even matter. And it was all about Madge all along. So then the treasure being the focal MacGuffin of the story at first and then fizzling out into nothing is in itself a perfect representation of the theme you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's not that the treasure doesn't matter, it's that it totally does. Yeah, but like, and the fact that the treasure was already like, it was already taken, and then that ties into the Henry plot because Henry, of course, Henry found the treasure with Madge, and he took it all for himself, and he tried to kill Madge, and so the treasure is already part of Sue's fortune, and Sue's only along on this thing because she wants to lead Sam off her trail.
Okay.
So I think the treasure, Sue knows of what happened to the treasure. Sue totally knows everything about the treasure. She knows that it's no longer at its, original resting place. And she's only there to stop Sam from finding out.
Okay. And so, but what's really, if her dad is dead, is she just defending his legacy?
I think, the law is going to get involved there. I mean, if it's revealed that this fortune was, Henry basically imprisoned and killed Madge, or not killed her, but tried to kill her, and stole all this treasure, then that's a pretty big thing. That's a big secret that she'd want to cover up. I mean, that's her entire fortune is built on a lie. And you could even introduce that lie earlier on. Like she could say, "Oh yeah, my father built this company on such and such," and it's a lie. And if that lie is ever exposed, then Sue loses everything.
He built it on such and such. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, Henry could have spun a story about how things went down in Jamaica with Madge. Let's say that Henry tells everyone, he tells everyone that he found the treasure alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that, he omits Madge from the story. But the truth is, he and Madge found the treasure and he betrayed her. So if it's revealed,
okay.
or Madge found the treasure on her own, and then Henry deposed her and stole it. It's just that it's the lie that this company's founded on, that Henry is this glorious explorer, when in reality he wasn't.
So
and
then
if that
it
truth
would
ever
really
gets out,
be her legacy.
Yeah, legacy, and
Yeah,
also it's a crime that
yeah.
she could, and she would lose all her money. But yeah, there is a social
Real.
component, and there's also the financial component. She'd probably be like audited, and everything would come belly up, and it would be the end of the company as she knows it.
Oh, okay. I understand it. I like it, but the logistically, would that really happen? Like, if you found out the dead founder of the company, like, stole in order to like found the company and even murdered, like, if
Yeah.
he's already dead, who is really going to be like legally liable for that? Like,
Well,
is
that's
that
where the idea.
really
Yeah,
going
no,
to affect
that's true, and that's where
Sue?
the idea of combining Henry and Sue came into play. Um, because if they're one character, then his motivations or her motivations, the motivations of this character are much more crystal clear. If it's just one character who's keeping up this appearance of this conspiracy. Um, but also, you could just make Henry's crimes way more egregious. And if Henry was really a monster, I mean, if you make Henry so much worse. Um, but yeah, it is also, I think legacy is the primary component, either way you spin it. Because what is
It
this company
could be,
exactly?
yeah.
This company is about hotels, outdoor adventure. It's all adventure themed, right? So
Hmm.
you have these statues of Henry at these hotels, and he's this glorious Indiana Jones figure. And if
Hmm.
that's all a lie, if he was just a snake, then yeah, that's all the company's, that's why people go. So if it destroys the reputation of the company, then people are no longer going to stay at these hotels. And yeah, still the company will fail financially. So
Oh, interesting.
the financial consequences will be a result of the social consequences,
Yeah, well,
because
because what
you
you're
just
saying
ham
is
it
he
up.
could be integral to the branding.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, and imagine this. Imagine if in Jamaica, you cut out a whole segment, maybe even a song, just showing how lavish this hotel is, and this is an adventure hotel, and our glorious founder, that, and you just really ham it up, and you show just how big this image is to the brand, and how important it is, and how this image draws people in, and then
Hmm.
we realized later on, oh, okay, so this is why Sue has to preserve this image at all costs, because without this image, she has nothing. The entire brand would fall apart. I mean, it's all built on a lie. And the real Henry, when we see him, um, you could either make Henry this mysterious rogue, or you could make him kind of a loser, you know. And then that contrasts with the perfect macho Henry we see it in these hotel statues and this branding.
Yeah. The other thing is that if Sue, let's say, murders the private investigator or just murders anyone else along the way, um, then it goes from beyond just protecting like her father's legacy
Oh,
and the company to then like if that comes out, she is
oh
personally
shit,
like
yeah.
so like in the process of doing this, she raises
She's
the
digging a
stakes for
hole for
herself.
herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's making it so much. So she's in too deep, and she's probably stressing out too. She's like, man, well,
Yeah.
I mean, in preserving this secret, she's piling more crimes on top of her family. Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest reason that I can't merge, like literally merge Henry and Sue, well, there's two reasons. One of them is that based on one of the songs, because I didn't write these songs. These are songs
Yeah.
from the 70s. So one of the songs, the song about Madge, literally starts with a date, 1927. um,
Hmm.
so the shit with Madge has to be like 30s or 40s, like
Yeah.
latest.
No,
And
no, I got you.
and then Sam has to have an affair because of the song "Save It for a Rainy
Yes.
Day." Um, so I'm working in those restrictions, but I really
No.
like the idea of this being about Sue protecting. because honestly, I'm looking at like if I look at my draft, that wouldn't be that hard to modify my current draft to fit. Like I'd have to like really drastically change the scene when they go to Jamaica. Um, and then and then I would have to modify like the scene with Henry and Madge, and then I'd have to really overhaul like a lot of my outline. But and then obviously I'd have to change the scenes with like Sam and Jimmy to reflect this like potentially like Sam's resentment and then Jimmy really insisting and stuff like that. But other than that, I feel like the scene order and stuff like that actually still kind of functions. I would just have to change some of the character
Yeah.
perspectives and obviously the lines and stuff. But
Yeah, and we kind of have you have a new core story. I mean, you kind of, in this conversation, we're sort of like, we're messing with the core of Sam's, motivations. And there's also a new plot. And I guess I haven't thought far enough ahead to wonder whether these two things line up, but I think they do. I think you can have this resentment for his mother with Sam, and you can also have, I'm not thinking far enough ahead. You might run into a roadblock there, but to me, it seems like it all checks out. And you could even think about this. Jimmy could know how dangerous the situation is, slightly. Like maybe he has some inkling of some notion of why Sam, maybe should do this, or I don't know. Jimmy could give an ominous warning to Sam of some kind that could really set the tone for this whole mystery. If Jimmy knows a little bit. I don't know. That's just an idea.
okay. Yeah, there was I've been toying around with the idea because I keep running into this problem where it's like clearly like Sam's our main character, and then Jimmy is such a bigger character than Madge, which I think it should be the case because like Sam is kind of like his main motivation is to do this thing for his dad. But then when I actually look at like, how there's like a backstory outline or whatever,
Yeah.
it's all about Madge's like what happened with Madge. And so I was almost thinking like there's a version of it where maybe Jimmy and Madge treasure hunted together and then she started to do it with Henry or something like that. But maybe it would just be enough to make it that like Jimmy was really looped in for a long time. And so he knows a lot of this information, but maybe he's not able to tell some of it because of his kind of fading mental.
Yeah, I think, and
status.
also I think maybe his lore with Madge is that they were adventuring together and then he backed out. He's like, please come home with me. Let's start a family, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe she ran off with Henry instead. What if Sam is actually, oh shit, what if Sam is actually Henry's son?
Oh, can I tell you the big problem with that is that the second that we have a Madge and Henry kind of like ship, we have incest.
You're right. No, we can't have that.
Sam and Sue. So I'm trying to keep that. I was even thinking of having Sue be Henry's like niece, just just to even further distance it. Yeah, I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think it would not hit for a Broadway audience. I know it's like the obvious thing. Oh, everyone thinks that too. Okay, yeah.
No, I hear you. Let me just get into if you don't mind, I had some other ideas that I wrote down here.
Please.
Let's see if any of this still holds up now that we've talked about it. Oh yeah, there's some little things in the dialogue I wanted to talk about that I think can serve your story better, like Sam's speeches over the intercom. I'm kind of curious as to how those play into his mindset, because he does that whole thing like, oh, we're gonna crash and burn, and he makes jokes about this. I just remember something about that sticking out to me. I'm scrolling up right now.
You know what? If you tell me to cut them, like I probably just straight up will, because I stopped writing them after a while anyway. Like they just kind of felt like a drag.
Yeah, I think they could be
She,
shortened for
yeah,
sure. But I'm just looking for. I mean, it's how you meet Sam. So I guess my main concern would be when you have like the first moment a character shows up, that's fairly important. And it's going to be purposeful. And he is. He's talking about that lust for adventure. Um, there must be more to this life than my low paying, soul sucking, dead end job. Yeah, I think it works. I don't know what I was. I expressed some concern about that in my notes. Oh yeah, it was later when he
it's
said
probably the next one.
sometimes you just
Yeah.
crash and burn. Maybe that's not the best metaphor at all. Turbulence is just like life. I mean, if he backpedals on that, like I wouldn't have him rescind his metaphor. Like if he's gonna say something about turbulence is like life, I don't know. I feel like that's a good opportunity to really show some deeper, um, deep-seated thing within his mindset, and it's not really an opportunity you're taking. You kind of just turn it into a, a bit of a gag. But I don't know. That moment there, I would, if he's going to make a metaphor about turbulence and crashing and burning or whatever, maybe really tie
Mm-hmm.
that into his. I'm just making a little comment in
Great.
the document. Use this like as a Freudian slip of some kind. And then there were a few other dialogue moments that I just wanted to touch on. Oh, the interaction with the bartender. You had some notes about that. How you didn't want it to be. It sort of just hands Sam exactly what he needs. This random
Yeah.
bartender. I'm trying to find what page that's on. Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's on
18.
page
Yeah.
17 and 18.
So, what exactly were you feeling was the problem with that? You said it feels magical. Yeah.
Yeah, a a friend of mine who I'm writing a different project with, she read through it, and this is one of her notes, but she was like, I literally thought, is there magic in this universe?
Because he
Because
winks.
yeah, he literally just comes in and solves the problem. Um, I don't even know what I was thinking that day when I wrote this. I think I was just wilding. I can just, I think there's better ways. Maybe Sam could just come around to it.
Well, maybe
Like
use
yeah.
Chuck. Maybe use this opportunity to deepen Chuck a little bit. How could Chuck have something in his history, or Chuck have some perspective that could set Sam's light bulb off, set his light bulb off? Because the thing that Sam has to find out is, um, what is the conclusion of the scene? That's it. My dad's
Um,
boxes. So how could Chuck
yeah.
meet Sam there?
Um, yeah. I just I just commented that. So that could be um yeah, I mean that could really be anything. That like I just got to come up with some creative way for Chuck to have something that he brings up in his past that's relevant and shows his perspective, and then it sparks Sam's
Yeah,
idea, right?
yeah, and just using
So
that opportunity to characterize Chuck a little bit too.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think there's always opportunities where it's like, oh, the instinct might be to bring in some other character device. But like, no, look at what you got. Look at the
Mm-hmm.
existing pieces. Can you play any of those first? And that's just something to
Yes.
keep in mind with that scene, I think. I love the mystic who says the astral plane. That was a really good gag.
Oh, thank you.
Stuff like that.
Oh.
There's a lot of mention of like treasure hunter as an occupation, where they kind of say it very
Uh-huh.
casually, as if it's some normal thing that people in this universe do. And I don't know if you wanted that
Yeah.
to be the direction, but to me, it was just that it was a tad campy. Um, like it, I just it's like I think
Yes.
describing it makes it seem like, oh, this is just it's like, oh, she was a treasure hunter. Oh yeah, my dad's a treasure hunter. Oh, like that sort of thing. And it would make, I think,
Okay.
Madge feel more special if this was described as being a bit more of an anomaly.
Okay.
Like I don't think
So
Indiana Jones is never like, they never say you're a treasure hunter. It's like, no, he's like an archaeology professor, and they
yeah, he is an
acknowledge how
archaeologist.
absurd it is.
So I'll say when he calls Madge treasure hunter.
To me, that set off my suspension of disbelief a bit, which is a subjective thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
That's great. Yeah. Or maybe like looping back to like the whole, if Henry becomes like a big part of the branding, like he's like the Colonel Sanders of this, like
Yeah.
Maybe they call him a treasure hunter and everyone's like, treasure hunter, like that's a little
Oh
like,
yes, okay, yeah.
you know,
I like
like
that a
maybe
lot,
that's
'cause
part of his
actually,
branding. And then when he talks to Madge, she's like, I'm an anthropologist.
yes, okay. No, that makes a lot more sense. I like that a lot, because treasure hunter is such a campy term, but it fits so well with this fake persona that Henry would have.
Yeah. I don't hate the idea of Sam calling himself a treasure hunter, but that, I guess that really depends on.
Yeah, Sam is
like,
very he's a very wide-eyed kind of adventurous sphere. I think
yes.
it works, as long as the other characters sort of recognize that that's not like saying you're a UPS driver
Mhm.
or a, like a fry cook. It's not just a job. You're like, you're a what? I think that's the appropriate response to that.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great point. I can I'll add that.
What else did I do?
What'd you say?
Just looking over my
Okay.
notes here. I think I covered mainly what I wanted to, in terms of the stuff I spotted. I don't know. How are you feeling about any further stuff you wanted to talk about? Just look through your notes.
Yeah. What did I say in our email? So
I've never heard the term jukebox musical before, but I kind of like that. It's really interesting.
Oh, really?
I'm just not.
Yeah, that's
I'm not terribly familiar with musical theater. And it was really interesting, like reading your songs and stuff and how you work it all in, because that's very foreign to me.
Oh, it is foreign to me too. I'll give you a little bit of backstory. This was, so yeah, a jukebox musical is like Mamma Mia. Like
Hmm.
that's all ABBA songs, right? I'm sure you like looked up the term after that or
Yeah, no,
whatever.
I can
Yeah,
infer some things about it.
yeah. It just means pre-existing songs, and so uh, so I have just revamped this script so many times because every time I come up with something that kind of works, I find a lyric or like a song that just goes nowhere now. And
Yeah,
I don't want these songs to feel shoehorned either. Like it's very
right.
important to me that someone could come see this and not know these songs and honestly like think that they were written for this show. Like that would be in an ideal world what
Yeah, that
would
makes sense.
happen.
Makes a lot of sense.
And yeah, and just I don't know how important this is, but the context is basically at the beginning of COVID, my friend came to me and was like at the beginning of lockdown, my friend came to me and was
Yeah.
like, let's write this. And then like he's like, you write the script, I'll like arrange the songs. We're he's not working on it anymore. But at the time, we reached out to the guy who wrote these songs, and that's how we got all these lyrics and everything. Like this
Oh
is not
shit. Okay.
anywhere. I know this isn't anywhere on the internet, but I am not kidding you. I've gotten 40 pages into different drafts of this like 4 different times, and then I realized something story-wise isn't working. This is like the 4th time. I'm so determined to get a good chunk of this to work, like at least like a good chunk of the scenes that are written so far to work if possible. So that's why I kind of like this. The way that we're clarifying the mystery feels like at the very least, I can probably keep my scene and song order and just change perspectives and the contents. Like I'm fine rewriting the dialogue, but it is such a drag to me to like have to rewrite this whole thing from scratch again. It just takes so long. So that's a little bit of context. And then I think can we talk through it, since we have a little bit more time, if we do go the direction of chronologically. Sam hates his job. He finds out his dad is dying and his dad has some sort of mental decline. And then Jimmy tells him, I like you need to find your mother. Like and Sam's like, oh shit, she's alive. And maybe and he could even maybe say like, I thought she died. And then Jimmy shows him some sort of letter or some sort of proof from after. Like this is where it starts to kind of fall apart. Yeah.
You're looking for the specific mechanisms that are driving you from scene to scene. And I think that would be easy to do with the letter. I don't think, because basically, where's the first place Sam goes after that conversation with Jimmy? What's his first move?
After the conversation with Jimmy, he goes on that trip. Oh, actually, no. He goes to Mama to ask if Mama will take care of the plants, and then we can get like the mentor aria from Mama. And then he goes on that little trip with Rosie and asks if Rosie wants to go on this adventure together.
Yeah, I think all that lines up.
Yeah, great.
But does he know specific? So he has to. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, go.
So what's the mechanism? Why does he end up linking up with Sue and going to Jamaica? That's the real question here. How does he learn he has to go to Jamaica?
The way that it was that he goes to this bar with Chuck. He's like, oh shit, like I actually like I thought I could just do this, and now I'm like I have no job and no clue even where to start. And then Chuck's like, why don't you go through your dad's stuff, which should be obvious. And then he finds out that his mother was an anthropologist. And then he knows he needs to go to Jamaica, but he doesn't have a plane, so he spends that money on a billboard to see if anyone with a plane will come with him to find this treasure. So maybe instead of the Chuck telling him look through dad's boxes or whatever, he could be conflicted of whether or not he wants to do it, because he's like, if she's been alive all this time and she hasn't come home, like maybe she probably doesn't care about us. And then Chuck's like, hey, there's treasure involved.
Yeah, the treasure. I think, yeah.
So then
That's a good way to do it. I think Chuck is the guy who's like, come on, treasure. That's his role here.
Okay, I really like that. So Jimmy is like, please, please, please find Madge. Sam's kind of like, I want to do this for you because I feel like I owe you a lot, but like, fuck, if she's been alive this whole time, what the hell? And then Chuck's like, well, why don't you just do it to get the treasure? And then later we can even have like Rosie or something point out the paradox to Sam. and be like,
Oh
what are
yeah,
you
for
what
sure.
are you even doing this for? Like you say you're doing this for, I think there's actually even a spot where she kind of gets at that. Um, so that could be helpful. And then, yeah, Sam could do the whole billboard thing. But then from Sue's perspective, Sue's like, oh shit. Some, so then does he post that he wants the treasure, or does he post that he's trying to track down his mom? Which
I
one's going
think
to
he
raise the
posts.
red
I think
flag for
no,
Sue?
no. I think obviously the mom thing would raise the red flags, but that can't be what the billboard's about. It would have to be about the treasure. Or I think it would just
Hmm.
honestly, Sue's smart. It doesn't even have to mention either. It can just be looking for a special. We need to fly down to Jamaica or whatever it is. I think posting that you're looking for a treasure in plain sight is very dumb. And I don't see any of these characters being dumb like that, except maybe Chuck. But maybe Chuck slips up and discloses too much. Maybe Chuck is in charge of making the ad, and he puts a little too much information. And it's like Sam's like, "Dude, what the hell? Why would you?" Chuck's like, "Oh man, sorry, I thought we could always." And then Sue comes up and she's like, "Hey, do you need a pilot or a plane or whatever the hell she's offering?"
Yeah.
And then that could be a way to get you there. Just having Chuck, be kind of a dumbass. Um, Not like in a major way, but just letting a little too much information slip that Sue, sets off her alarms. She says, "Okay, so it seems that these kids are about to do this. How about I just accompany them and I steer them in the wrong direction?" And we didn't really talk about how Sue would do
Okay.
that, other than killing the PI. Um, but oh yeah, how would Sue mislead them?
Okay. Yeah. So I actually like that idea of maybe Chuck is placed in charge of making the ad, and he makes it way too explicit, and
Yeah,
like it could literally be the ad that I already have written, and then Sam could be
yeah,
like, "What the fuck?"
it's funny. It's in
And
character.
then yeah, yes, and then Sue bites because she's like, "Okay, I gotta throw them off the
Hmm.
scent." Like
No,
what?
I think
Like
Sue
this?
Sue
Yeah.
feels as if she is the best person. Like if she's not there, they're going to figure all this out. So she has to be there. And maybe she doesn't have an exact plan, but she knows that like if they figure this stuff out, this is going to be terrible. So Sue brings them to Jamaica. Sam goes and hires a PI, and Sue's like, the PI finds like one or two things out, and Sue's like, nope, 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 poisons the PI or whatever it is. Um, and then the trail has gone cold. Now, obviously, they're going to have their suspicions about the death of the PI, but they don't suspect Sue. Maybe they suspect some nefarious force from a different direction. Maybe Sue. Hmm, yeah, that's one little hole here that we'd have to patch.
It could be that like I did have it in my head that like maybe in Madge's letters she talks about like Henry and the corporation, but maybe he goes by something different now and the corporation is called something different. Like it had a rebranding in between them. And it could be
Hmm.
something where like people are like, oh, like I didn't realize those names were so similar. Like that makes sense. Um, but like maybe we don't put together at first, or that might just make it more confusing.
This is true. Or maybe Sam figures out that his mother was with a man named Henry, but they don't realize that it was Henry, the owner of the Henry Hotels.
Okay.
I mean, you're just describing like something that. I mean, how does this relate to Sue misdirecting Sam? Hmm.
Um,
And obviously, Sue like tries to seduce Sam too. That's part of the misdirection as well.
okay. Um,
But Sue would have to feed Sam some lie or some like, just to throw his trail off. What would that thing be? What would she tell him? Because of course they all end up going back to New York, right?
yes.
So what would
So
Sue tell Sam that makes him want to go back to New York and give up or whatever, like, oh, we're done in Jamaica. We can't find any more here. Sue has to spur
yeah.
that on somehow. There's a lot of ways to do it.
Okay. So Sue doesn't want Sam to find out about how evil her father was in like subjugating Madge, and then she thinks killing Madge. Like she thinks her father was successful in killing Madge. And so she kills this PI, and then maybe she's like, it's too dangerous here.
Yeah.
Let's go back to New York.
And she
And
could even,
then
what if,
yeah.
yes. Sorry, keep going.
No, you go.
I think the way that she could do that, if you wanted to just add a little more peril into your story, I know it doesn't have a lot of moments like that, but maybe after the PI is killed, maybe Sue pays some people to do some theatrics to scare them all out of Jamaica. Like maybe she hires a gang, to intimidate them.
Mm-hmm.
Or just some thugs show up and Sam wants to fight, or maybe Chuck wants to fight them, but it's like no, we can't handle all these guys. We have to go. This is a hostile place for us. Just some show force that makes them want to leave, and then maybe that's when you get one little subtle clue that Sue's behind it. I don't know. Or maybe
Okay,
there's a
so
fire,
then
like the hotel catches on fire, or some. I don't know what it is, but there's so many things that she could do to scare them out of Jamaica. Like you have a lot of options there.
and you think I guess that would work, but then what gets them to go back? Is it still that? Because what I kind of had is that at the midpoint is when he finds out. Oh yeah. Here's what I have it like. I just told you what. Like I'm an employee of XYZ Corp. XYZ Corp. That stands for Henry's company. So like, yeah, I kind of had that idea that I was talking about. So like at the midpoint, he can find out that Sue orchestrated all that stuff, or some of that stuff,
Yes. And this is
and that
after he's already
she's
slept with
evil.
her, right?
Yes. So it becomes like so then we run into a problem where like he goes to Jamaica. I think that's cool. He hires a private investigator. Sue kills her off because she finds something out. Does the audience know that?
No, I don't believe so. I think you have to
Okay.
say this I mean, if it were me, I would not reveal this to the audience until Sam figures it out. Whenever that is.
Okay. And so then and then they get scared off, maybe because of that or because of some other thing, like hiring a gang, like in conjunction with it. And then Sam comes back home. And do you think it's literally like, because the problem is that then how does the affair really start? Because he comes back home, Rosie's like, you're gone so much. Like what I had it was that they go back to NYC, and then the next scene is like they've been at this for a few weeks. And
Okay,
Rosie's
so
like,
where does the affair geographically? Where does the affair take place? Does it happen in Jamaica or does it happen in New York?
It happens in New York. It starts in New York.
See, what I would do is I would just extend the first Jamaica segment out a lot, and I would just have Sam sleep with Sue in Jamaica. Like, 'cause it's just a few scenes right now, but I would stretch this whole Jamaica segment out into a whole, set piece. This is the whole thing. They're at the hotel. It's a lavish hotel, the Henry Hotel. Then the PI finding things out. We meet the PI. She's finding things out. Maybe Chuck falls in love with her. PI, and maybe during that time, before the PI dies, is when Sam and Sue sleep together. And then the PI dies, and then things start going to shit. The gang shows up, and they all hightail it back to New York. So that's when I would do the affair. I wouldn't even. I would spend more time in Jamaica because at the moment it seems like they just show up and then they turn around and come right back.
Okay. Yeah. What if would it be possible to like they almost have an affair and then he's kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna hold off, like I still love Rosie. Then he goes home, she's kind of pissed at him for like being gone for so long. They sing Rock and Roll Slave, sleep together, and then he's called upon by Sue the next morning. They have this big blowout, and then they have the real affair later. Like, we could set it up
I like that.
like maybe he just stops himself from having the affair in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, yes, I like that a lot because if you introduce Jamaica, like it's this hot, sexy place, then yeah, sure, that's the first place to plant that seed between him and Sue. I like that a lot. I think that works. And
So
how about
maybe,
this? Before we get, yeah. I was going to say before we get too far off topic.
Yeah, you go.
The reveal, basically. What if through the letters Sam knows about Henry, but he doesn't, like Henry had a name change, so it wasn't the company. It was literally Henry going by an alias or a different name back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam knows that X killed Madge, and Sam knows that Henry is the hotel guy. But the revelation is that Henry is Mr. X.
Mm-hmm.
Henry is the guy, and then after that, it's not hard for him to piece it together that Sue has an agenda, because Sam knows that Sue is Henry's son. I mean, it's Henry's daughter. So once Henry realizes, oh wait, Henry is responsible for what happened to Madge. Henry's responsible for my mother's quote unquote death. Then he's like, oh, and Sue, that's why Sue did this. That's why Sue did that. Oh my God, holy shit. That's why Sue, it's all been Sue the whole time. And that's the revelation.
Okay. All right. So then that would have to be that he finds out, like, at the same time that he finds out that his mother was seeking this treasure, he finds like the article about like when her plane crashed or whatever and how her body was never found. And maybe, and then in that letter that Jimmy has, like the one letter that proves she's still alive in like to Jimmy, it can say that Henry is responsible for the plane crash. Or
yes, I think it's as simple as Henry
yeah.
had a name change. Honestly, Henry just had a name change or something, and once they piece together that
if he's a mascot, he could have a fun mascot name.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe even it's Sue who lets slip that her father's real name was such and such, because Sue doesn't know about the letters, right? So if Sue or just something gives it away that, oh yeah, my father's name isn't, and you have to give Henry some exciting last name too. Henry, I don't know, but it's like, oh, well, his name wasn't really Henry such and such. It was actually, I don't know. It was actually Bill. And then Sam's like, holy shit, wait, Bill, the guy from the letters, the guy who was involved with my mom, who like, oh my God, that's the same guy. What? And then he pieces it together.
Okay. So then, this is something I've been toying with, is like, so do you think it's not ambiguous at all whether or not Madge is alive? Like Sam thinks she's dead. He finds out from Jimmy she's alive. He knows she's alive. He just doesn't know where she is. And maybe Sue thinks that Madge is dead because she was publicly like presumed to be dead and whatever.
Well, I think that for all Sue knows, Madge is dead. But then maybe Sam mentions, my father thinks that my mother could be alive. And then internally Sue's like, wait, she's alive? This is so much worse. Oh my God, I got to do something. Because if she's alive, then there's somebody who's a witness to my father's crimes. So
yeah,
that just amps up the tension for Sue. I love that. Like, I think Sam has some doubts about whether or not she's alive. And and he casually mentions that to Sue. But I don't think. I mean, the audience can think what they want about whether she's alive or not. Clearly, Jimmy is 100% sure, and Sam is doubtful, but he goes anyway because of the treasure. And Sue sees the potential survival of Madge as a threat. They all have their opinions on this, but whether or not she's alive, it's not like you're coming out and telling the audience she's alive. And when that reveal finally happens that she is, it's just, it is what it is.
But why? I guess my question is, why would Sam even think that she might not be? Like, if we have an explicit letter from her after the date that her plane crashed, that is what Jimmy's going off of, that says, like, my plane was sabotaged by Henry and they think I'm dead, but I'm not. Like, then why would Sam question it at all?
That's a good point. Maybe it's not so much that he questions it, it's that he kind of represses it because he doesn't want to deal with this image of his mother. He doesn't want to think about her because she's been dead in his head for so long.
So maybe he's like, well,
emotionally engaged with this situation yet. I think he's in denial. He's like, no, this can't be, because I've literally formed my entire identity around this mother who left me and died or whatever. And if she's alive, it's so much more complicated. I don't want to think about it. And Chuck's like, listen, man, let's just go for the treasure, and whatever happens to your mom, whatever. And so that's how Sam gets roped in. But he's still apprehensive about his mother. It's like in the back of his head, like no way, this couldn't be. But I think
he can even be like,
Sam is, it doesn't affect the plot at large, because he still has the same motivation with the treasure.
Yeah. And then one other thing is that I was talking to someone recently who thought, like, maybe at the end, like, the theme isn't actually like Sam comes home and he's like, oh, home is really fun and great. It's more like he maybe brings Rosie and Jimmy to Jamaica to meet up with Madge. And then we kind of have, like, the message is left like home is like your location and more like home is your family and who you're with and whatever. Do you think that's necessary or confusing?
I think it's definitely, the theme is definitely something in the vein of, like, the real treasure was the relationships sort of thing. I don't think that's so clear to me. Like, that doesn't seem like something you could possibly change. That's just the DNA of this story. I think the ending you have right now is pretty fine. Like, I have nothing.
Okay.
Like, I know you didn't actually write it yet, but it's the right ending. Even if it is a bit like, like, that's obviously what was going to happen this whole time. It's like, it's fine. It's right.
Yeah.
You have the right ending here, I think.
Okay, good.
How does just one more thing? How does the climax with Sue play out exactly? Does Sue end up dying? What's her ultimate fate?
Yeah, so this is gonna have to change if because Sue doesn't die in this version, but also Sue's motivation is completely different, and the PI is by her side the whole time. So in our version, I think it would be something more like Sue, Sue goes head to head. This could actually help, because maybe Chuck crosses Sam and then Sue has Chuck as a pilot. But because otherwise she doesn't really have a great way to get to Jamaica. But she goes to Jamaica and beats Sam to Madge's location, and then I guess, I don't know, she goes to try to kill Madge or something like that, and
I think she has to kill Madge because Madge was the witness to her father's crimes. So Sue definitely has to kill Madge. That should be her goal at this point. I think you have I like the idea of pairing up Chuck and Sue, because if Chuck, I think I really like the idea of Chuck having this really intense fling with the PI, because when he finds out that Sue killed the PI, like his reaction to that could be a major plot beat that could really stir things up. You know?
Oh, okay. So
You got that locked in.
okay.
Like that's such a perfect little conflict. So to pair them up in a plane, have them go down to that's great. I think keeping Sue and Chuck together, so that big secret, like, oh my God, like Chuck needs to be there when that info gets dropped, because his reaction is going to be huge.
Okay, so idea. So Chuck betrays Sam and is like, "Sorry, dude, I gotta do it because I want this treasure." And Sue lies to Chuck and says, "We're just going there to find the treasure." But meanwhile, she really wants to go there to kill Madge. They get there. Sue admits that she killed working name Isabel. She killed Isabel, and then it's like a moment of despair. It looks like she's about to kill like Madge and Sam, and she kind of explains why she did everything, and then Chuck bashes her over the head, and is like,
well, that's one way to play it. But she already has Chuck, so why would she let Chuck get the jump on her? It would make more sense that Sam shows up at the last minute to save Madge and Chuck. At least to me.
Okay.
Because Sam is in a different plane and he's coming, hours later or whatever. So why not just have Sue? Sue could have Chuck tied up. Sue could have Chuck and Madge tied up. For all we know, Sue could really have the upper hand, and then Sam shows up, and then you get the final confrontation between Sam and Sue.
Okay, so Sue has Chuck and Madge, then Sam comes in and
I think the moment the plane lands, Sue knocks Chuck out or something, and then Sue goes and gets Madge, and then Chuck and Madge wake up together tied to a pole or something. Or she finds some more theatrical way to kill them. Like she's gonna like throw them into like the plane propeller or like an alligator pit. I don't know.
Yeah. Alternately, it could be like maybe Madge saves, because it's on like Madge's home turf. Maybe she's got all sorts of traps and shit set up.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And she defeats Sue. Like they get to the location, and then there's no Madge, and but Sue's gonna kill Sam and Chuck, right? And maybe Chuck is like, "Oh shit, I did the wrong thing, Sam." Like Chuck regrets his betrayal from moments ago. And then Madge comes and just like, maybe she has like a snare trap, or she just bashes her over the head with a rock, or like whatever. Or I don't know, does she literally kill her, or does she like trap her so that she can get her comeuppance?
Oh, I don't know if Sue needs to necessarily be killed, but Sue needs to go down in a big way, that's for sure. I like the idea that
maybe Sue kills Chuck.
That'd be brutal. Yeah, that'd be insane. I mean, I'm not saying to do that, but like that's like, oh, I mean, she totally would, to kill this pilot to cover her tracks. But I mean, that just feels wrong. I don't know.
Here's the thing: is it's brutal, but like at least then it feels like a real like. Well, first of all, I guess I feel weird about if Chuck betrays Sam, and then basically him and Sam are both in the same peril, like at the same time, and then Chuck's just like, "Oh shoot, I'm sorry, Sam. I shouldn't have betrayed you 10 minutes ago, or like 2 hours ago when we were in New York. Like and then they're both fine afterwards and they make up. It almost feels like less impactful than if like they're both in peril and then like maybe Chuck tries to rush Sue and then Sue just like shoots him and kills him. And then she's like about to kill Sam, but she's feeling conflicted about it because maybe they have like a real kind of relationship going, or
Yeah.
she has some feelings, but she needs to because Sam knows too much. And then we get Madge bashes her over the head. This way, Chuck at least has like he tries to be valiant in the end, and then he dies doing that. This way, it doesn't like he just gets fully forgiven like immediately.
Yeah, I like that. I think Chuck has like I wouldn't kill off Chuck before he gets his stuff, he gets his business over with. Like firstly, he has to address the fact that Isabel was killed by Sue. I think his reaction to that is important, and then his whatever interaction he ends up having with Sam is important. And then you could go the sacrifice route. What I don't like is the idea that he only died because Madge showed up 2 seconds too late. Oh, if she had just showed up a little bit earlier, he'd be fine. I don't like that. That feels a bit contrived to me. I think a better way to play it could be that Chuck gets his redemption in some way during this climax by making it so that Sam and Madge can win. Like he has to make some sacrifice play so that Sam and Madge can win. That makes the most sense to me.
Okay. What would an example of that look like? Because I'm not sure I'm following what that would be.
Well, we're talking a lot of like chains and ropes and guns and this and that. I guess the idea of Chuck. Let's say that Madge shows up, but Sue overpowers Madge anyway. So that Madge isn't just like a savior. Like Sue really does get Madge, and then maybe Chuck was tied up in the plane, and he shows up at the last second. Maybe Chuck wasn't tied. It's just like the logistics of making this work, but because they're in the jungle, right?
Yes.
I've been to Jamaica. I was down there in like 2018, so I keep imagining the way it looks in my head. Oh yeah, it's crazy. I would totally recommend it. Cheap ass flights.
I think I went there as a like a young child. I think but just to like Atlantis or whatever a resort.
Yeah, my uncle, he's a missionary down there, and he runs this sort of practice in the foothills in St. Mary's province. So basically, like it's just very, very poor. And I went down there a few summers ago, and just painted houses and worked on gardens and stuff, and so it was really cool. But yeah, I'm
really
totally,
nice.
Like the Jamaica aesthetic is working for me because I can totally see all this in my head, and I'm glad that I have that experience to help me conjure it up. And the Henry Hotel is such a cool aesthetic too. I'd so lean into that. This mythic Indiana Jones archetype has this hotel chain.
Yeah, yeah, that is really fun.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
It was just we were just saying what the Chuck sacrificing would look like. So it would just be like Madge and Sam are like tied up, whatever, and then Chuck stops Sue in some significant way, but like he dies in the process.
Yeah, and I think that Sue doing all this alone is a bit like I like the fact that she would like hire a gang earlier in the story to scare Sam out of Jamaica. I think she still has some leverage with this gang, so maybe there are a few foot soldiers that she controls to make all of this more possible.
Okay, so like they're surrounded,
Yeah, it's not just Sue.
But Sue maybe has the gun and the plan.
Yeah, I think if you need another variable to make, because you obviously know what you want to do with this climax. If you're going with a Chuck sacrifice, it's just that the specific A to B, and that's all just plot stuff. That's all just it's purely mechanical. So if you need another element to make that work, bringing the gang back in could be a way to do that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. This has been exceptionally helpful.
Oh yeah, no, I love doing this. I'm really glad that we could talk about this because I think you have a awesome story here, and this is like just crazy concise, and you clearly like, I think you need too much of my help. There's such a plan here.
Thank you. I
Yeah, if
really
you have
appreciate it.
if you have other drafts or anything, like if you keep working on this, feel free to send it to me. I'd love to see where this goes.
Yeah, I actually, this went so well. I think what I might do is, I know you're booked out for like literally this upcoming month, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. But I'm working on this other story, and I might hop on your calendar for that one too, because I'm, oh God, juggling too many things. But the other one's really fun, and that one's actually an original musical, so there's a lot more flex room. And we just finished writing the first half of it today, so maybe it'd be good to get another set of eyes on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, I'm going to stop this recording here, and it's going to save immediately to